motherfucking universe. And I'm heading home. I'll be home very soon. And I thought I would talk about one of my favorite nakshatras. That's Purva Phalguni Nakshatra. You know what's so funny is that I live in the suburbs. And right when I'm driving into my home, my neighborhood in the burbs, I start doing Purva Phalguni, which is an interesting coincidence because Purva Phalguni can be very bougie. Purva Phalguni can be as artistic and grimy and as raw and real as they want to be. When it comes down to it, when it comes to laying their head to rest, a lot of them will wind up in a suburb or a really nice neighborhood because they're not trying to. It's Venus. Venus likes beauty. Venus likes to be surrounded by beauty, beautiful surroundings, beautiful buildings, beautiful people, beautiful music, beautiful everything. You know? My aunt is a Purva Phalguni moon, and she's lived in the burbs for the last 30 years. My friend, who was the most artistic, creative genius you've ever met in your fucking life, is now living in the burbs in Dallas. My Madonna is a Purva Phalguni moon, and she may be Madonna, you know, and when she was young, she was Lower East Side. Right now, she is Upper West Side. She is living in the burbs of Manhattan, you know. If there is such thing as the burbs of Manhattan. It would be Upper East Side, Upper West Side, right? Actually, she's Upper East Side. She's Upper East Side. She's like 86 and fucking 2nd Ave or something like that. Anyway, yeah. And so what's funny is that in Chinese astrology, in ancient Chinese astrology, this star Purva Phalguni, which is a star in Leo, was actually one of the walls of a great palace. So I actually do think that's very interesting that in Chinese astrology, well, in ancient Chinese astrology, this star is associated with a big, beautiful house. And every time I know Purva Phalguni, they always wind up in a big, beautiful house. Is it because it's Purva Phalguni and it's sitting right here? Maybe. It also might be because it's just Venus. Venus likes beautiful things. Venus likes love and beauty and sex and nudity and feeling good and being happy. And it's all like a spiritual thing for Venus. You know, it's not like, oh, let's be pornographic and let's like have crazy sex. It's not like Scorpio or Saturn, you know, where it's just like, oh, let's fuck. You know, Venus is like, let's make love, you know, let's all make love, you know. Venus is very hedonistic, and anyway, Venus is so interesting, you know. Venus is like so beautiful, but it's so like innerly, I don't know, it's like it's you know, in ancient India, Venus is what's called like a demonic planet. And so, you know, Venus rules over Purva Phalguni. So it has a bit of that side where it's very earthly and it's very wrapped around earthly things like money and luxury. So Venus is definitely showing itself through here. And, you know, like the reason why someone would call that energy demonic is because, you know, what does Jesus say? You can't take any of this luxury with us. You know, it's about giving towards others. It's about sacrificing for others. Venus ain't about that bullshit. Venus is about being logical. A lot of times Venus doesn't even really believe in God that much. they can tend to eventually. But a lot of times Venus doesn't believe in God. You know, a lot of times Venus is just so logical and so even violent. You know, just Venus is crazy. And it's so hot. It's like the hottest planet, you know. Everyone who's Venus is very beautiful. And because it's Venus, it's very horny. So you see Purva Phalguni being very horny. So, like I said, Madonna, I mean, that bitch is fucking horny all the fucking time. I'm gonna see her concert next Friday. Hey, I could have seen her. I could have bought tickets for her Saturday concert, but I actually did not. I wanted to get her Friday concert because Friday is ruled by Venus. So I want her, and I know that she's a Venus woman, being a Purva Phalguni moon. So I actually wanted to see a Venus woman on the day of Venus. So when I do my scheduling for work, I always try to be off on Fridays. Because on Fridays, because I understand Friday is Venus. So I always take off work on Fridays. I don't do anything on Fridays. I don't clean on Fridays. I don't cook. I don't clean. Anyway. But yeah, Purva Phalguni is really horny. You know what reminds me of Purva Phalguni so much? Have you ever seen Bob's Burgers? You know Tina, the really nerdy girl who's so horny? That is a perfect Purva Phalguni example. Someone who is very nerdy, but is also very sexual. So is very like sexually mature, and someone who has always been like a nerd, but is always so interested in the opposite sex. You know, and I forget what the phrase is called in Hindi, but basically the kind of a phrase that goes along with the philosophy of Purva Phalguni is, may I like partake in young women or something like that. And it's so true. I know so many Purva Phalguni men who just prefer young women all the time. I know that's kind of a common thing for men to prefer younger women, but with these men, it's like almost exclusively younger women. You know, like they'll be 40, 50 years old dating college girls. You know, I even know a Purva Phalguni man who was 40 years old, and he was a doctor. He's Venus, right? Venus loves money. They have to have good jobs. They can't. He lived in the suburbs. You know, I would drive to the suburbs to go teach him piano, and Venus is very genius. So this guy was a doctor. You know, I would teach him piano lessons. Anyway, yeah, he was a fucking nerd, but because he was Venus, he was really hot. Like, he was really sexy. And Venus is very preoccupied with having beauty, right? So they want to have a hot body. They want to be sexy. They want to have good sex. And Venus is always preoccupied with love and relationships and romantic and romance. And so you see a lot of these people dating, you know, one after the other. When they get older, it can be different because of the Navamsa. Also, people just change throughout time. But Venus people, definitely in the first 30 years of their life, they seem to be constantly dating people. You know, and also they tend to be incredibly creative. You know, people with Purva Phalguni, they can be incredibly creative. They can be good songwriters, very good musical people. Venus is so good. Venus is a good dancer, but with Purva Phalguni specifically, I see songwriting a lot. I see singing. I see music in Purva Phalguni. Yeah, and I see a lot of relationships with Purva Phalguni. A lot of them, because they're so beautiful. And they're good at sex, you know? I mean, what can you say? Even, like, if you see a nerd and they're not really even attractive, but if you find out they're Purva Phalguni, like, they may give the best head you ever fucking had. Or, like, they fuck like a machine. Or fucking, she takes it all. Just kidding. But honestly, not really. Like, Purva Phalguni is really good at sex. So it's even like called the reddish one. So that has a couple connotations. One connotation is a stellarly. You know, the star could just be glowing, which is why they called it the reddish one. But also, you could just associate it with just being a very passionate person. Purva Phalguni is incredibly passionate. So there's Purva Phalguni and there's Uttara Phalguni. So Purva being basically before, and Uttara being latter. So there's Purva Phalguni, which is completely in Leo, and then the next star over is Uttara Phalguni, which is half Leo, half Virgo. But anyway, Uttara Phalguni focuses on the commitment part of a relationship. So the marriage. So this is why Uttara Phalguni blesses people are blessed with good marriages, or blessed with good unions. But Purva Phalguni is focused on the passionate side. So you get people who are in so many relationships that are Purva Phalguni, and they have good sex, and they have good they have good like relationship skills. They know how to pick up people. They know how to get into relationships. But it's just like for some reason it's the being mature enough to stay in a relationship. I wonder if they get kind of like bored or scared of the monotony of the routine, stuff like that. But also, I also wonder if it just gets too intense for these people, because Purva Phalguni, like, honestly, they're the type of people that'll fucking kill themselves over a relationship. Like, I know that sounds bad, but they're the type of people. This energy can be that way, or just kind of like, honestly, this energy can be depressing in general. For some reason, it's really Venus's fault, because Venus is so logical and so obsessed with like beauty, and it can kind of be a little bit superficial. But not to say that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying they're so focused on earthly matters that they can tend to forget their spiritual side. So when they get depressed, they can get really, really, really low, because a lot of spiritual people, they'll be like, you know what, I'm down, but God is here, God is good, and God's going to get me out of this. But when you're an atheist and you're very logical, and if you don't have the tools to cope, then you're going to be like, what the fuck is the point of this? I'm depressed and there's no God and nothing matters. So it's like, it on one hand, it can scare them into greatness, because a lot of Purva Phalguni people are brilliant and they're great. Like I said, Elon Musk is a Purva Phalguni moon. It's a very strong sexual energy. Venus rules the semen. Venus rules the semen. And so a lot of Venus people will make boys, and Venus, what's it called? And Elon Musk, he only has sons, which I think is interesting. He has like 5-6 sons, which is very Leo, very, very Venus. This must mean he has a strong Venus. We're at 14. I mean, I could actually keep going on about Purva Phalguni. It's a very, very intelligent energy. People focus on Purva Phalguni's sexual side and the artistic side and the romantic side, but people forget so often to talk about the analytical side and the genius side, the mathematical side, the Leo, fire signs in general. So Leo, Sagittarius, Aries, fire signs in general like to learn. They see learning as a fun thing. They'll go to seminars. They'll go and they'll go on learning excursions. So what are we talking about, Purva Phalguni? So Purva Phalguni is like that. So they just love learning. Madonna was tested at genius levels. Elon Musk is clearly, you know, an incredibly intelligent guy. I'm trying to think who else is a genius that I know. That's Purva Phalguni. I can't. Okay, I'm kind of tired. I'm kind of blanking out. I'm so sorry. Damn, that kind of sucks. I feel like I have much more to talk about Purva Phalguni. Yeah, basically to recap, very sexual nerds. Very sexy, very sexual nerds. Yeah. Very good parents. They can be, like, the moms can be very proud and very, very proud of their kids, you know. They take a lot of pride in their kids, so they're gonna invest a lot into their children, right? There is a bit of ego, it's Leo, right? There's a bit of pride there, it's Leo. So they're gonna have a lot of pride in their kids. You know, they definitely understand that children kind of are a product of the way they're being raised, you know? And Leos take that to heart, you know. They're like, I hate to say it, but there is a bit of ego. So there's like an extension of themselves. So it's not like they try to raise them to be a certain way. It's more just like they're aware that, hey, kids are only gonna be as they're raised to be, you know. So they invest really, really strongly into their kids. The dads can tend to be way too harsh. Like, it can be the mom or the dad. Honestly, it's the way it's expressed. If it's expressed femininely, then yes, you'll get a very proud parent, someone who's going to be very supportive of them, especially when it comes to the arts, especially when it comes to what's it called, things that like sports, because it's about winning battles. Venus likes to win. Venus is good at winning because Venus is good at war. It's good at fighting. So but then you got Venus, which is all about aesthetic, right? So it's like beautiful war. So what's beautiful war? Beautiful war is like chess. You know what I mean? So Venus people are interested in like intellectual, you know, battles and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, if it's expressed femininely, then you'll get like a very proud parent, someone who's very supportive, whatever. But then if you give it in a very masculine way, because Venus very much can be a general or a commander. Hitler was a Venus moon, so don't fucking forget that. You know, Venus can be very fucking intense, and if you get a dad who's intense with the Purva Phalguni, he can be very, very intense with his kids. He can be very, very harsh with his kids. He can be abusive with his kids, not in a sadistic way, but in a very penile way, in a very like, I expect straight A's, why didn't you get it? And then he hits him or something like that. Like, they can be very, very, like, they can be way too demanding. A lot of Purva Phalguni parents have very, very, very intelligent kids, because Purva Phalguni parents tend to really, really emphasize the academia and the intelligence. Okay, I feel like, I guess that's enough. Okay, bye.